Now that I know sign language and have been to college and have lived several decades on my own, a very lonely life, it seems unimaginable to me. Long ago, after my arrest by Pitt, that the University of Pittsburgh arrested me in 1993, that I would have been so depressed by psychiatric malpractice as I was then and later in Chinatown at the hands of the bizarre ninnies in Seattle. But the first time, depression is the worst. I have a friend in Gaza who's suffering from what she calls post-war depression. And I am too. It's ironic that I would think of what I read when I was depressed back in the 90s. Depression is the worst. You really have to be a sage to know when you have to stand up and fight for yourself against depression, not give in to it. It's ironic that I read Poland. It's ironic for James Michener's book, Poland. Cover to cover, good read, yeah. It's ironic because it goes through the centuries of Poland and talks about the Sejm veto, which was a self-slaughtering veto that any member of the Congress could veto. And this is like the Security Council arrangement that was, in all lack of insight, written into the script of the United Nations. It's like a Sejm veto. And what I want to try to express, I don't know how important it is. I'm doing it because I told myself I'm too depressed to do this. I don't want to set that kind of example. Got to fight depression. It has to do with the void in understanding, the understanding void that exists. Yeah, there's an understanding void. Difference between knowledge and understanding. You get the data, but you have to internalize it and comprehend it. People say there's a difference between hard power and soft power. Distinguished people I respect. George Galloway says that. But I don't really understand why he believes it the way he does. If that's who I'm thinking of, it might be someone else. Like, look at the National Rifle Association. National Rifle Association do like this here. They beat their breasts. They shake their Tommy guns and they say, our conscience is the deciding factor. Not guns don't kill people. People with guns kill people. Suppose I happen to agree with that. See what I'm saying? They are the ones who don't agree with it. They say it. The data goes through their heads. But there's a understanding void where the knowledge is. Because what is a class? What is it they're arguing, class? They're arguing the preeminence of soft power. The mind is at work. Hard power is when the criminally insane go out and commit violent crimes. And so you see, might makes right. They chose to be cruel and stupid. RFK, the big one, the old one, said we're a compassionate society. He was meant to be a compassionate leader of a society that would have been compassionate under his leadership, because the understanding void was not so the meaning of soft power as the true strength of the people was not lost on him. You know, when you look at someone like Pope Leo, who argues against the rights to announce your own victimization. He's not making an argument, at least meaningfully. Roman Catholicism doesn't believe in human sacrifice. Fools who have live in the understanding void challenge that, but it's meaningless tripe. Now, Goldwater is a nice name. Goldwater really redeemed himself, in my view, when I saw how terribly, terribly moved and heartbroken he was by the death of JFK. Goldwater is a good name because the true gold is water. And he believed in compassionate conservatism, not just cruelty. And we're seeing devastation and humor because of the $1 trillion bankers cartel that has given us a debt to match their extractions. And they become cruel. They don't understand. They shoot first and justify later. And that's where the NRA is under some kind of hocus pocus spell. Like Biden was under that golem trance. He was under the trance. He thought he would. They put him in a yarmulke and he'd start wailing and peeing himself. People who wanted to fight how humiliated they are by the depth of rapture in which they live in the understanding void said, I was humiliated. I set a bad example by letting people beat me up. The people who beat me up could have set a far better example for themselves and others by not doing it. You see, aha. See, that's when the NRA gets its aha moment. So they've been calling me out about old biblical law because they set up a drunk club. You know, you made advances on a girl who misled you about her marriage so that they could say Octong on behalf of culturally competent fundamentalism. What Aaron Gandhi said about that was, you should have gotten to know her before you got into heavy batting. Well, it was her idea, and she took me home and she withheld evidence, the information that she was married. And she said it was a marriage of convenience. Now, of course, that's the mirror system that they use for the second mirror of the semiotic system that you find in the Telltale clip, the Two Virgins Pussy Bowl War game. Seattle left support of the draconian extermination lottery run by the VA. And, you know, Lenin's Houdini, the Axis mirror, and Diva. But Aaron Gandhi's right. You get no argument from me about that. But another thing that's ironic about my thinking of Poland is that there's a scene where there's this cackling, I realize that people are under the hypnography of the Jeffin Corporation and believe that Japan is a sacred culture of infinite peace because John Lennon says so. They were actually allies of Nazi Germany who were notoriously verminous, evil people who we're still suffering from today with this business coming out of the Zeos to get revenge on other innocent people. Yahoo for the Zeos. And of course the sandbaggers whimpering and peeing themselves. No, mustn't double cross Sean Lennon by telling the truth about any of it. Well, in Poland, there's this moment where they destroy the urns. There's a word for them. They're these bowls that the women used to make dough. And he comments, if I remember correctly, how small and petty and cruel of a thing it was to do to smash the bread mixer bowls. It's the same thing with this. You know, I believe that enough prestige is invested in keeping peace in Gaza that it may hold. It may really be the intention of all of these people, Tony Blair and them, to give Gaza a goddamn chance. But they had to smash, they had to get Saleh killed on the way out. They had to do something small and mean beyond all small and meanness. Take it or leave it, you know. So I'm praying for the peace. President Trump even had a joke that made me laugh. He said he wanted the corruption charges dropped against Nosferatu. You know, the punchline he didn't state is understated, which is that they've been forcing him with threats of prison to engage in this booty call. So if the peace is going to hold, you got to let him off the hook. How about that, Nobel Prize winner? He gets an honorary Nobel Prize.